evening. Welcome to the Leaders Edge program. Tonight, we have a special guest, Michelle Cordero-Garcia, to talk about the next and new normal. Hello, everybody. It is such an honor and pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today. I met her at the People Management Association of the Philippines, and the first time I saw her, I must admit, I really underestimated her because I looked at her and then judging from my image consultant background, I said, oh my gosh, she's not doing the things you're supposed to do, when you're an executive. So, to my surprise, and this is really something that has taught me a big lesson in life. It's not always true that you judge a book by its cover. And that lesson I learned from our special guest today. Because with more than 27 years of human resource leadership practice from various industries, locally, regionally, and globally, our speaker has seen great opportunities and potential to uplift the Philippines through people development. This drives her passion and personal vision to be a catalyst in furthering the landscape of people management practice in the country. A psychology graduate and recipient of Jose Rizal Academic Excellence Award from De La Salle University and a certified international HR manager CIHRM by the American Certification Institute. Michelle never stopped to develop herself, leading her to graduate from various postgraduate programs. Accorded in 2018 as Fellow in People Management (FPM) by the Philippine Society of Fellows, CHRO Asia, also gave her a citation as one of the 2014 Global 100 Most Talented HR Leaders and as one of the 2015 Top 100 Influential HR Leaders in Asia. She also served the HR profession as the president of the People Management Association of the Philippines in 2018. And today, a member of PMAP's Council of Presidential Advisors. Today, as corporate professional, she is the Regional Director of Human Resources of Asia Pacific of Dexcom, the world's leader in transforming diabetes care and management by providing continuous glucose monitoring. It's called CGM technology. As an HR advocate, she is on a journey and a personal mission to be a mover of united, synergized, and enlightened Filipino HR professionals across the country. And we are so excited to share her words of wisdom today as she talks about the next and the new normal. So let's all welcome Michelle Cordero-Garcia.
Yan. Thank you, Miss Dinah. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for the generous welcome. Your opening statement made me smile. And remember, the very first time that I really met you, I remember we were at the PMAP Center and you approached me and you told me that I need to you gave me some tips on how I should actually wear the scarf and how I should ano ba, project myself when it comes to, leadership meetings and all. So, I remember that very, very well. And, I have that with me as a lesson. And, but still, sometimes, Miss Diana, and I think you also told me that, it's also very important to be the authentic us, right? And that is part of my journey also when I was with Team Up. And I'll share more about it as I go through my presentation. So if I may start, so I prepared here a presentation about the new and the next normal. So, everybody's going through this, uncertainty, unprecedented and uncharted territory of, COVID. And I thought that perhaps it's a good opportunity for me to share my insights and lessons learned during this time of crisis. If we will all remember, this entire pandemic started sometime March when the quarantine period in Metro Manila started. And, I said to myself, mukhang this is the first time that we've not organized a summer outing, team building, strategic planning, because usually March, April, May, those are the activities that keeps HR people busy, right? So there were a lot of changes that happened during the first 3 months of, this COVID pandemic, more so during the next fourth, fifth, and now we are on our sixth or 7 months, right? Um, a lot of things changed. And I would always tell myself, this pandemic is actually a great reset. Great reset in the sense that, it actually forced us to change a lot about our work strategies. It forced us to change the way we live, our lifestyle, the way we do our work, a lot of things, right? So it actually forced us to be very, very dynamic, very, very flexible. It forced us to also be embracing of disruption. I remember, Miss Diana, when we were together in PMAP in 2018, a lot of our topics would always be about the future of work and, disruptive innovations in the workplace. But I never realized that this pandemic is the one that will really fast track all of those, disruptions and strategies that we've been talking about on how we should be ready our organizations on the future, right? During the first 3 months of pandemic and even up to now, I think a lot of organizations are confused, they feel lost. A lot of them had to make difficult decisions. Some organizations, fortunately, are able to, quite well manage the situation, but still, there's still a lot of uncertainties, and it has become a roller coaster ride for many leaders, for many organizations. And organizations have taken different routes. A lot of organizations have taken different routes, different strategies and different approaches on how to manage all of this. Most people, I think, opted to now report and do work from home. Some of them now are more relying on data, information in making decisions versus before we would usually have our face-to-face meetings, brainstorming, sit down together, talk about things. Now we still do that online, just like how we're doing our presentation now. But I noticed that many organizations are really dependent on data analytics, right? In terms of career, many people have started to shift careers, or others are still within their own organizations, but a lot of insights and realizations are happening amongst our employees, amongst our people. And if we go and look inside the homes, a lot of things are also happening in there, right? Here in the Philippines, we are a very relationship-based culture. And I always say, minsan, we don't need to just take a look at the employees. We also need to take a look at what's happening with their loved ones because it affects them. And so the last 6 months has been a very, very emotional workplace. And sometimes I wonder, how did organizations, how did leaders of organizations manage the disruption and the risk that goes with the changing ways of how we do our work? there were a lot of strategies that were embraced, probably with less analysis or assessment, simply because we had to make the decision right there and then, right? I remember March 16, 17, immediately we decided, all right, allow employees to bring all their desktops at home, because you want to enable them to be able to work from home, and that's not a usual decision that we would usually take very quickly, right? But we had to do it, and that's just one basic examples. So it has been a very, very emotional environment for everybody. Even our employees who are working from home, I always say nga, working from home is different when you're working from home from the US versus working from home here in the Philippines, right? Because sometimes our homes are not designed for working. It's a very open space. We share our homes with our loved ones, with our relatives. Sometimes we even share the bedroom with our siblings. We don't have an office space in our homes, at least for majority of the folks that I've seen. If we have it, then we're fortunate. If not, then that's your typical Filipino homes, right? And if you look at the profile of your employees, if they're very young and still living with their families and parents, sometimes they also live with relatives. So there's a lot of things happening around them. And when something happens to a loved one living with you at home, you can't help but also get affected, right? And somehow it affects also the way they work. It affects their motivation. People are scared. There's a lot of uncertainty. So why am I sharing all of this? Um, because I'd like to drive a point that, again, whatever it is that we're going through right now, it's not yet over, obviously. And even if the pandemic um, stops or there's already a vaccine or a cure, there's still the next normal, right? They say that this situation we have now is the new normal. Post-COVID, there's the next normal, and that is another wave of change and adjustment for organizations. Right now, as it is, many organizations are looking at how are they now going to evolve the the workplace, and the workforce, right? Because of this pandemic, a lot of organizations are revisiting their business plans, their business designs, and basically going back to basics, focused on what are the mission critical services of the organization. What is the purpose of the organization? What part of our operations is most value adding? How can we be flexible so that we are able to still address the needs of our consumers? The workplace, we know that there are now mandates to make sure that we design the new workplace. And there's now this trend called the 6 feet office, right? So the density required for the workplaces is now different. People now are exploring a mixed workforce of some people working from home on certain days and some people working on site on certain days, and removing the 1:1 employee table arrangement, but basically a hoteling, open sharing, collaborative workplace, but with a lot of safety and security measures. And you begin to think, how will this affect the way we do our work schedules? Like, how will people time in, time out? When they're working from home, how do we make sure that they're really working from home and they're not doing something else during office hours? And that will change the approach to hourly based to result based, right? And in the workforce, we now have to revisit the competencies required for the people. I feel that right now, the competency of learning on the fly is very, very important. We have to be very flexible. We have to be willing and have that agility to learn very, very quickly each time we experience something new. But despite that disruption, we need to remain focused, and not people can stay focused while learning on the fly is happening, and while disruption is happening, and while something is happening also with people around them. This change expects us to create more change, new processes, adoption, and probably even introduce new innovations on top of the disruption that's happening. for leaders, it's a question of how do we continuously empower people that we don't actually see every day working? How do we keep the trust going, and how do we help them make good sense of everything that is happening right now? So if you look at all of that and we ask ourselves, how do we keep organizations engaged and motivated in this new normal and next normal? And I would always reflect and realize that, again, it will be enabled by the culture and the leadership in the organization. And I think leadership is one that is most important. And now we ask ourselves, so what kind of leadership is that? What kind of leadership will allow us to navigate and motivate people during this uncertain time? And ang dami, different types, Miss Dinah, but I
Yeah,
said,
oo. Michelle,
maybe,
a thought just came to me.
sure, go ahead po.
I'm absolutely sure that our audience will be so curious
Mm-hmm.
as far as where you are.
Mm.
Are you mostly working from home or you go to the office? How many people go to the office? Do you do what you call take turn, parang, you know,
Mm-mm.
how
Taking
do you,
turns, yeah.
yeah, so how do you manage that? Because really you have a lot of people with you. So what do you
Yes.
do? What do you do?
So Dexcom, we have close to 1,000 employees here in the Philippines. When we started during the pandemic, of course, the immediate reaction was, all right, everybody work from home while we're figuring this out, right? So during the first few weeks, everybody worked from home. However, we started to experience that, connectivity is not very good for everybody, right? So we had this challenge of some of our employees, even if they would like to remain productive and work from home, they simply cannot just connect because the internet connections are not consistent. Sometimes it's erratic. So at the earlier phases, we had to actually have a group of people that we housed in nearby hotels near the office. So we called them the Malasakit team. So we really provided them with the housing, transportation, food. And we're very thankful to this group of employees because sila talaga yung core employees who made our operations up and running. And they really stayed within the quarantine zone. They didn't go home even during weekends. They really remained in the hotels. They go to the office. We shuttle them, and they remained in that arrangement for probably, I think, about 2 months, while we were in the process of stabilizing our employees working from home. And then sometime mga May or June, Miss Diana, when they started to actually adjust already the quarantine levels, we started to slowly bring people back on site. And we set a target for ourselves. We didn't want everybody back on site because we were still not sure about the pandemic. But we started to bring and allow people to go back on site during that time. And I remember we had about siguro mga 35%, 40% of our employees starting to go to work. And then, and since then we've decided that, all right, we will continue to enable people to work from home because we thought that that's the safest option. Right now, we have about 5-7% of our employees that we allow on site. And again, these are the employees who really, despite all efforts, still are unable to connect and do their work. And our goal as an organization is to keep everybody productive. And fortunately, for the past 6 months, we continue to hire. In fact, since March up until today, we've hired close to 250, going 300 employees for Dexcom. And it makes us feel good, challenged, but good because we feel that, we're able to help employ people and join the organization. And that's part of the element of, all right, so how do you manage the pandemic but still continue your operations and still make sure that people inside the organizations are motivated, they feel safe, they feel secure, they're okay. So a lot of those things we are managing all at the same time.
Michelle, thank you. And that's incredible, really,
Mm.
because I know that so many more are not able to do that. In fact, you must have heard thousands of companies, the smaller ones, even the large corporations have had to suffer losses as well.
Yes. Yes.
And
And it's
yeah,
sad. It's
oh,
sad, but
sad,
those
sad.
are the
Oh,
realities. Yeah.
yes, and I know millions. You cannot really count accurately, but by estimate, something like 7 million or more Filipinos are jobless.
Mm.
It's really sad, but we know that's reality. Tell me, I'm sure that you also have found some positive things coming out or the nice effect. There must have been also some good effects of this
Yeah.
working from home, this pandemic. So how how do you size it up?
Um, Definitely a lot of, well, I can say benefits really, but I think this situation has really made us reflect on a lot of things. You know, sometimes, Miss Dinah, I really like observing people, what they do, what they say, how they react. I enjoy doing that. And during the last 6 months, you know, since I'm not able to actually go outside because I work from home, and since March I've been here at home, I go and look at the social media, right? So I'm actually amazed at how resilient the Filipinos are. One, you know, you will see a lot of people posting about, you know, they're now using their hobbies to be able to cope up. You know, they cook, they plant, and you know, tuwang-tuwa ako dyan sa mga plantito, plantita, right? Because I realized when we were working, we never get to enjoy doing those simple things, right? But now, a lot of people appreciate the fact that they can actually grow plants inside their homes. And I remember nung kabataan ko, Miss Dinah, my lola would always have plants inside the homes, and that you know, it makes the home beautiful, cozy, homey. And I realized, oh nga no, but parang nakalimutan natin yun gawin. And now, more people are doing it again, right? You will see a lot of people selling their, you know, secret dishes, you know, and sharing it with people, and telling them, all right, recipe to ni mama, recipe ni lola, you know, go and try. There's also this trend now of, you know, they call it the barter community. I don't know if you've seen an example of a barter community, but these are people posting some of their personal items that they're not using anymore. And they post, like, for example, I have here a blouse or a shirt. You know, I'd like to barter this in exchange for, let's say, you know, I don't know, 5 kilos of rice, right? Um, I'm actually very interested in that relationship because I realize it's so humbling for people to say, I have this material thing, I'm willing to give it up in exchange for something that's important and I need right now, right? And I sometimes can't help but think that this is actually probably before they decided to do that, they realized that there are more important things in life. And sometimes those important things are the simple things that we need every day,
Yeah.
right? It's very humbling. It's very, sabi ko nga, this is like we're all in retreat. Parang we are forced to go through this reflective phase of our lives and just realize that working, going out, going to the malls is really not the most important thing. The most important thing is, you know, you stay with people you love. We stay at home with our families. We cook meals. We don't go outside as much, you know, and wala eh, di ba? You're really forced to just be there, be with family, reflect, and you know, go back to basics. And I
Mm-mm.
think that's
Wow.
positive, right? That's positive.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. And Michelle, thank you so much for mentioning the plantito, plantita. Good
Mhm.
thing, no? Even before the pandemic, Dino and I already started this hobby of planting because I noticed the garden
Yeah.
space, especially here in my home, is big. And
Mm.
what is the use of all these flowers, all these plants, and no use to me. So I thought already of planting some veggies. And
Mm-mm.
uh,
Correct.
Dino also did the same thing, and we are harvesting and cooking it now. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
so that is something. Indeed, I agree with you. There are some good outcomes also of this
Yeah.
pandemic
Mhm.
gives us pause. Look
Correct.
at the things that matter in life, all right? And
And even
yeah,
yeah, even homeschooling, Miss Dinah, 'di ba? If
yeah, yeah,
you will look at it,
uh-uh,
of course, it's not easy. It's challenging
uh-uh,
for the kids. It's challenging
yeah.
for the teachers. It's challenging for the parents. But on a hindsight, yun naman talaga dapat, 'di ba? Tayong mga magulang, we should actually be there
Yeah,
to help
right.
educate our kids. And it's like the
Oo.
situation forcing us to
Yes,
do it because
yes.
if there's no pandemic, probably we are in the office,
Oo.
nag-overtime tayo, gabi tayong uuwi, na traffic tayo, pag uwi
Right.
natin, tulog na yung bata.
Yeah,
Right now, right now, we're forced to
yeah,
actually manage
yeah.
work and be with the kids and make sure that we guide them, right?
Right. And
And to me,
oo.
that's beautiful, right?
Indeed,
It's
indeed.
something that
Mm-mm.
we will never do if we are working in the office.
Indeed. And Michelle, I know because I'm looking at your slide presentation. I know how eager everybody is, especially this next topic that you're about to show us. I
Yes.
know they're just so eager to hear you. So back to your presentation.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to debate on the usual sharing of specific tips and techniques or programs that people do to be able to engage and motivate their employees at work. Because I'm sure by this time we already have heard a lot of organizations share all of those things. But I think one thing is very very critical in successfully navigating in this time of pandemic, and that is leadership, particularly our own kind of leadership. And there are many, many styles, right? There are many styles. But I realize, I think during, especially nowadays, it's very important that we remain true to who we are. And I'd like to refer to that. Of course, this is not the first time we're hearing it, but, be authentic, be an authentic leader, be comfortable being you. Don't be pressured about being somebody else or adopting a leadership style that's not you. I think it's very important for people to embrace their total personality and see how they can actually use that to be able to keep motivating others around them. And in authentic leadership, I realize there are certain elements that are very, very important. And these are the 6 elements that I thought is part of being an authentic leader. One is, always being reminded of your purpose as a person, whether at work or as an individual. It's very important that it's very clear to you why are you doing the things you're doing. What is the meaning of everything that you are working on right now, and hopefully we are able to translate that to our own passion, right? Fortunately for me, and I always tell people, I'm really very passionate about HR. The work that I do is not work for me, but this is my purpose. I feel like being in this profession is the reason why I am here, and the gifts given me is precisely to help, make sure that we take good care of people in organizations. The values that we have, I think, is also very important for us to remember and make sure that we don't sacrifice our values, regardless of how challenging the circumstances are. And we need to make sure that those values that we hold dear gets translated to how we behave, how we act, and how we make decisions, especially in times of pandemic or in times of uncertainties. The third one is the heart. Um, Especially nowadays, nakakatuwang makita that people are helping one another. They're being very compassionate. They're being very understanding of what others are going through. And for us leaders, I think it's always very important for us to balance doing compassionate leadership and also making sure we safeguard the needs of the business. But at the same time, I think we're more mindful nowadays in terms of how do we make sure that people are first taken care of before we make some operational or business decisions. The fourth one is self-discipline. And this talks about how consistent are you in using your own style, in using your own personality when you deliver your work. And I think that's very, very important because if you're not consistent, then probably you're not being true to yourself. So you need to have that discipline to be consistent. And to me, consistently is equal to, just just be who you are, right? And be comfortable and be okay that that's you, and you don't need to change. You don't need to be somebody else. The fifth one is the character. When people are under certain challenges, or when people are under certain problematic circumstances, they get tempted, right? They get tempted to do something not good or probably not right. But we need to always remind ourselves that it's very important, especially nowadays, to keep our integrity as individuals, as leaders, as practitioners intact. And integrity is not just about doing what is right, it's also being very honest, being very open, and being very transparent. And that's part of how you communicate with others. And when you are honest, when you are truthful, people will feel the sincerity when you communicate. And when you are sincere, people will feel it, and people will likely be more supportive and understanding of the circumstances that you're trying to explain to them. And then the last one is awareness. I think it's very important for us to always be self-aware, always reflect, and always try to figure out what's really happening around us, and embrace a growth mindset. Growth mindset is not about knowing it all, but it's all about learning it all. Especially now, right? There's a lot of new things happening. Even myself as an HR, there are a lot of things that we've designed and we've decided on. That's first time for me. But still, we said we have to make the decision, so we take the decision. If it's not the right decision, then that's fine. We go back up, we learn from it, and move forward again. And that's very important because a lot of people are dependent on leaders nowadays. So it's very critical for us as leaders to be able to influence people around us in a very positive way. So these are some of the things that I thought is important for leaders to do: being themselves, being clear about their purpose, behaving aligned to the values that they hold dear as individuals and as an organization, being compassionate, being consistent, embracing integrity in everything that they do, and lastly, embracing a growth mindset. And when we do this as leaders, when this is how we manage people around us, then people will see it, and they will remain optimistic, and they will remain motivated, and probably remain hopeful that things will be better, despite the challenges that we are all going through right now. And when you look at this, you also realize that today how we lead today will actually leave a legacy. People will remember how we manage them, right? It will leave a legacy over the long term. And therefore, it's very important for us to make sure that we do the right thing, and we do it showing who we are as true individuals, because it will help drives people's motivation to succeed. It will help people have that drive to go back up, and help people to realize that they need to evolve. And this moment that we're all going through, for me, I think is a moment that really, really matters. And therefore, it's very important for us as leaders, as authentic leaders, to be human-centered, to be truthful, and to be purposeful. And most importantly, to be 100% us, 100% you. Be comfortable for who you are, because my belief has always been, we are all created as good beings, right? Wala naman pong tao na gustong maging hindi sila successful. There's nobody who would like to be the source of problem of others, right? It's always, if you look at it, we are good by nature. And if you always reflect and go back, you will realize that a lot of the innate strengths and capabilities that we have as individuals, as leaders, will always go back to helping others, inspiring others, leading others, because we want them to be better. So, and for me, I think that's very, very important nowadays. Be 100% you. So I hope that's helpful, Miss Dinah. And I think that also will help explain how come during my PMAP days, uh, I hindi naman po refuse, but I think I really felt comfortable that all right, this is the way I dress, this is me, and not that I am stubborn, but I just felt that there are other more important things I need to worry about, versus how I look or how I I wear my clothes, and I guess that created a brand. So I think it turned out to be okay. So I hope that's helpful,
Oh,
Miss Dinah. Yeah.
oh my gosh. And this is the end of your presentation, right?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. It's really something. I learned so much just listening to you. And by the way, um, not just because of what I have seen now with your presentation, but during your term as president, I was privileged to serve as one of the trustees. And I saw how many times you would
Yes.
rather remain in the background and you would call us, the trustees, to go out there, go on stage, represent you. This, and that was
Mm.
so unusual because it doesn't happen with most others. So I already began appreciating. Oh, so that's Michelle. She wants to give the spotlight to others. She wants others to shine, not necessarily all the time on her, but others ahead of her and encourage us. So I have experienced how you have led us from your heart. So uh, while the presentation, the slides and everything, well thought of, but it's really seeing the way you walk your talk, the way you live your life, the way you lead others, because I felt it was so light. It's almost like uh, I have no like there was no burden, meaning everything that was assigned to me was very light.
Yeah.
You made it so, and because of your caring and nurturing, kind of leadership. So
It's
now,
it yeah, it's really a team effort, Miss Dinah.
indeed,
If
indeed,
I look back, I
uh-uh.
think that team, I'd like to call it a team, right? The 2018 team. Siguro it also just so happened that we were very clear in sharing the vision and the focus, di ba? I don't remember us having a meeting wherein we had to debate. Parang all of the meetings were just always aligned and people were just always, all right, this is Dina's strength. I remember you represented the whole board uh, in the international federation HR, and believe it or not, to the people listening in this platform, uh, I really don't like presenting, honestly. I don't like being on stage. I don't like presenting, ganyan. So that's why when I was asked to go and you have to travel and represent the HR community in the Philippines, we all said no. That's Dinah. That's Miss Dinah, right? So, but we have to do it, right? It's not an excuse for us not to try things that we don't like doing because it helps us grow, but it's all about when we see people na yun yung strength nila and they will be happy doing it because that's part of their passion, then give it to them, right? Give it to them because that will actually inspire them, motivate them, and make them feel that they're contributing to a bigger purpose. And exactly
Uh-uh.
that's what you've done in 2018. You represented the Philippines HR to the international community. Because I
Thank
remember
you.
you were the trustee in charge of international HR relations. So,
Yeah,
salamat, Miss
thank you.
Dinah.
And I really enjoyed every moment. Thank you so much. And by the way, um, I've heard a lot of the leaders take care of their own people, their own organizations. I was just wondering, Michelle, from your point of view, for those leaders around the world listening to us, because this will go to YouTube, of course,
Mhm.
and this is global. Um, Please, you may have some ideas because this pandemic has really affected so many people around us. What
Mhm.
can organizations, say for example PMAP or our own little organizations, what is it that we can do to support the communities that have really great needs? and because the government cannot do all of it. So,
Yes.
any ideas, Michelle?
There's a lot, Miss Dina. And I'll focus on the professional associations, like, PMAP is one, the Speakers Bureau that you have is also another one. A lot of people are having conversations about the next normal, right? What are the new competencies? How will the new workplace look like? What are the skills that we need to make sure we're good at when we resume our work by next year, for example. And one thing that I think is always very important is communications. Uh, Not necessarily public communications, but how do we make sure that when we talk to people, we talk to them in a way that we understand them. We've listened to them first, we understood them, and then we reply back to something that they can relate with. Because sometimes what I notice amongst leaders, myself included, right? We're so focused sometimes on work, results, how do we resume operations, forgetting that sometimes people are going through something. They have feelings, and sometimes they're so good at putting a facade na hindi natin na-realize na, ay, this person pala was going through something difficult. And that is why mental health, I think, is also very, very important focus for this year and the years to come. And sometimes I wonder, how ready are we professionals and leaders in making sure that we provide a psychologically safe environment to our people at work, right? We don't have to be like a psychologist to them, but as leaders, we have a very big role to make sure that people feel safe, they feel okay to be themselves, they feel okay to be just humans, and the organization and the leaders will not take it against them. And sometimes the way we communicate to them matters a lot. So in that very simple example, for example, for your organization, right? How can we, what programs or interventions can we give leaders so that they can provide empathic communications? How can they be more sensitive? Or even when presenting, especially nowadays, I see a lot of leaders doing town halls, talking to their employees, assuring them that things will be better. As basic as what are the do's and don'ts, how can you make your communications more meaningful, may tagos sa puso, versus just simply, presenting updates, data, procedures, process, right? So there's actually a lot. Now, for PMAP, for example, being the preeminent HR organization in the Philippines, ang dami, because if the work and the workplace will evolve because of this pandemic and the changes that we've experienced this year, sometimes I wonder, labor laws, are they aligned? Like, for example, if companies now will tell us, all right, our employees will now work from home. So obviously, all right, paano yung time in, time out? How do you capture the hours? What if employees now are saying, I don't want to work 8 to 5. I'd like a flexible work arrangements, but I can deliver the result. And companies will say, all right, deliver by result. Pero paano na yung law? Because the law, it requires us to pay overtime in excess of 8 hours, right? But some people would say, doesn't matter. But for as long as I deliver the results, I'm good. So there's a lot of opportunities for alignment. And I think HR organizations like PMAP can influence and drive a lot of those transformation in our policies in the country. So there's a lot. There's really, really a lot that we can do.
I really do appreciate that, Michelle, because this gives me an idea as well as to how I myself, our own little company, can also help other organizations, help
Mm-hmm.
communities around them.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We have uh, borrowed you from your hectic works.
Nako
I
po, my
know you have so
pleasure.
much. Oh, I tell you, I know you have so much on your plate. Honestly, I know. And you are working from home. Congratulations. You're able to do all of this just by working from home. That is so wonderful. And this is for me, an inspiration to many other leaders that how they too can lead their own organization while all of this is going on and up to the next normal. Thank you
Yes.
and God bless you, Michelle.
Thank you
Virtual
to Miss Dinah.
virtual
Virtual hug. So thank you
yeah.
to Miss Dinah. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And again, accept my sincerest thanks for all of your support. And please do stay safe. And thank you for doing what you do and for continuously inspiring people like us with your programs. I know you are also one passionate person. And, you know, we need people like you, especially in this time of of uncertainty. We need people like you to remind us that there are bigger things in life than just work. And focusing on the passion is very important. So, salamat
Mm,
Miss Dinah and salamat
yeah,
din.
yeah. And you know what? Just one last thought. Oh my gosh, I'm wearing white. Michelle is wearing white. We're on the same wavelength.
Lagi naman, always.
Yes, yes. Terrific. Thank
Yes.
you again, Michelle. God
Thank you,
bless
Miss
you.
Dinah. God bless po. Salamat. Stay safe.
Stay
Bye.
safe too. Bye. Watch out for our next episode. Our guest speaker will be Butch Guerrero to talk about leadership in a tripartite environment. We are all going to learn how laws are made and approved, and of course, we will know the dynamics between employers and employees. Good night, be safe, and stay well.
So lahat kami nangangarap kami maging regular employee, but that never happened. I have to improve my attitude. I have to keep learning. Mahirap po, pero I went out my comfort zone. And then blood, sweat, and tears, just like a success story ninyo, and which made me where I am now. It's all because making that simple decision.
Let me ask you, I'm sure you are experiencing now even beyond what you imagined, correct? Oh, see? Because once you start moving in the right direction, pataas, no? I mean, it will just go, it will propel you to greater heights. Even if it is not yet true, you think, you believe, then you act like it is true. It will come true.
You know you're already earning money.
These are the perceptions of the members.
So you're afraid to go out to your comfort zone.
It's from the media.
You should go out outside your comfort zone. So take a lead.
Good news normally are in the back pages. And if we are not wise enough, our thinking will be influenced by what we are bombarded on a daily basis.
And show them the right way. Because I believe everyone's here have a winning edge. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. Terrific.
Hey.